That looks crazy. Why is that doing that? Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Gambale, and I'm from Close with One. The main focus here in today's talk is about the three beliefs that are keeping you from closing deals on calls. I'm about identifying the moments that happen in sales calls where trust is just lost and your buyer doesn't ever want to talk to you again and says something like, let me think about it or send me a proposal. So today we're going to talk about those beliefs and the things that we've seen and heard on sales calls that we think work and actually they don't work at all. So we'll go into those three tips. But for anyone that's on here today, you're going to gain knowledge that you don't see in sales books and you don't see in other sales calls because people aren't pointing them out for you, making them obvious. So today I'm going to make those obvious. And if there's any questions that you have, chat them in the channel and we'll answer them live. And if for some reason you need to have a private one-on-one, my information will be in the channel as well. So let's talk about the first myth that happens in sales calls that people don't get a really good sense of. So first, it's the microphone and hogging the mic. We've all seen and heard that somebody has the gift of gab and they might hear, wow, you should go into sales because you're great at talking. One of the challenges there is if you talk too much during a sales call, the buyer gets too much information in their head, they get overwhelmed, and then they feel like, wow, this person's pushy, and maybe I don't want to talk to them. So instead of talking 80% of the time, flip it so that you're talking just 20 or even less. Because you've heard of this perhaps as the Pareto principle, 80-20. Flip it. When you only talk 20% of the time, then they feel like they have an open space. They can own the mic and then ask questions. And that's the second piece is people don't ask the best questions on calls. But let's go into why people want to hold the mic and they feel like that's the path to getting contracts. When you let go of the mic, you're actually free and relaxed. If you're too tight during a call, people can see that in your body language and they can read that you're anxious. If you're leaning in too much and you're too excited, that's just like a flag or a stop sign where the buyer goes, wow, let me think about it. Anxiety can be read very easily by the subconscious mind. You've heard about the frontal lobe and the limbic brain and the cortex. Basically, what's going on is they're all trying to speak with each other and give the answer to you as to, should I trust this person or not? So if you're the buyer, you're looking for signals of, do I trust or not? So being anxious can be a signal that you're desperate. And even though we might really need the deal, if the other person sees and feels that you're desperate, they're also going to be afraid because they might think, this might be a bad deal for me. And the seller might know, the sales rep might know this isn't a great deal at all, but they've been given the pricing and the package and they're just going for it. So they might feel like if I speak fast and I sound excited, that you won't feel that I'm anxious at all. When you step behind all of this, the thing that's behind all of it is essentially a lack of confidence. A lack of confidence actually convinces the buyer they shouldn't be confident at all either. And so they'll see a mix of these things: anxiety, fear, and lack of confidence. Whoever wants to really sign up and be on a sales call and be pitched, there's a fear in the buyer that they're like, oh my God, is this person going to be really salesy? Maybe I shouldn't join. And when they see these things, when you are doing the super salesy and hogging the mic, that ends up killing things. So that's habit number one. Pass the mic over to the other person. And this is the segue to habit number two, is asking really great questions. And I'm not talking about the traditional BANT, budget, authority, need, and timing. If you don't know what BANT is, you can ask any of your GPTs. However, following that methodology means that you're actually not in the flow of a sales call. Being in the flow of a sales call is asking the right question at the right time so that the buyer knows, whoa, this guy's an expert. I should trust them. And they're asking me really great questions that got me to see things really differently. Studies have been done on buyers to ask them why they went with one rep over the other 99. And the data shows that 42% of the time, the single biggest driver of who they go with is the quality of the questions that are asked. They need to ask amazing questions. Otherwise, they're just not going to trust you. So here's some examples of questions some people have said are great. Hey, do you have a budget? Hey, what is your budget? Asking those questions means that you're a step ahead. You're too far ahead of the buyer, and the buyer might not even know, is this something that's even worth it? What's the value of the product or the solution or the service? If you skip over this question and avoid it, that's actually a great thing, because what you're going to do is to say, what's the value that you want? The reason that you got on the call. That's actually the starting question. What brings you here today? Why did you even want to bother having a conversation with someone that could be pitchy and send you 10,000 follow-up messages trying to get the second call to work? That usually creates a little bit of a laugh internally and externally. You're looking for the buyer's actual response to you. If you don't see a response at all as you're talking, one of two things are going on. They're a big data person and they're studying you and studying you and studying you, and they're looking at the details. Or they're big picture and they're actually following along, and they're laughing and they're tracking and they're more emotional. I do both, and it's important to do both and then change up the sequence. That's what's great about questions, is you're changing up the sequence of the conversation. How many sales calls have you been on where the sales rep says, let me show you my slides? Let me show you the demo. So in the chat, I see a few people that have messaged in. So this is interesting. One chat that's come in is just, hey, how do I stop overthinking on sales calls? That's a great. So this one here is coming in. I can't see the name of who it is, but I'll just ask the question or restate it. How do I stop overthinking on calls? This is a great one. If you have all your questions that you're wanting to ask, you're spending a lot of your time just keeping track of the next question. That's exactly what overthinking is. Instead, like I said with the mic, switch your brain to just listening. When you're really listening to what's going on, you stop the overthinking and you're in the flow of what's going on. So here's one of my secrets on that. Actually take your hand, put it over your mouth. You can see what I was doing there. I was just breathing and pausing and soaking in. So that's a brilliant question. Thank you for asking that. A second question that just came in. This is another fascinating one. Thank you for asking it. How do I sound more confident when selling? The person you're talking to is measuring not just the sound, but the motion, the tone that you have. If you're sounding not confident, that comes in the way you talk to them. Oh, thank you for joining the call today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can see how my voice got a little higher pitch. You do not want to be using a high-pitched tone. You want to modulate. Sounding confident is a body language and structure. If I'm leaning in and I'm kind of like bouncing around and my mind is everywhere, I'm not confident. You want to be kind of sitting back a little bit, relaxed and listening. You don't need this deal. You actually want to figure out whether they're a fit for you. How many times have you started with a client and then a week later, a month later, decided, I don't want to work with them? Your confidence actually needs to be on how good of a fit they are and in yourself. If you're not handling any one of those well, or ones of those well, you're going to be missing the mark. So we will keep a focus here on the channel and any messages that come in. And if you're watching this afterward and you have a question, add it in the comments. We'll pay attention to it. And if you feel like I just want a one-on-one time, great, reach out. Closewith1.com is a great place to go. You might even see your answers there. Okay, so let's get back into the second tip of the great questions. Sometimes the best thing is just to say, why are you here? And let them tell the story. Listen, listen, listen. And then ask questions that really matter. Here's a, for instance, once someone says, here's why I'm here, I'm having a problem with this, you can ask, well, how long has that been going on for? Oh my gosh, this just started 2 months ago. Okay, what have you done to learn about how to fix it? Oh, well, I went to my GPT, I asked my friends, I asked my boss, or I asked no one. I saw your blog post, article, podcast, whatever, and I wanted to talk to you about it. Plus your email caught my attention and I'm on the call because I hope you can answer the question. Okay, great. What is it costing you to not have this problem work for you? Like, what's the impact? Well, that shut down one of our servers. We lost 10 clients. We're not really sure if our messages are even working. We send them out and we're getting these unsubscribes. Okay, you're getting unsubscribes. What's the value of one new client? What's the monthly or annual value? Oh, a new client's 35K for us. New client is 155,000. Okay. How many of those can you actually onboard a month? That does something called mark math. Mark math is basically what's the value of the upside of having the problem fixed, the monthly value and the annual value. If you know how long this has gone on for, you can say, wow, this problem's been going on for 2 months. Does that mean you've already lost about 65K or more? Yeah, we've lost that amount. Okay. So what's the value of fixing this across the whole year? And then they start doing the math and you go, okay, so let's just make it simple. Let's say it's 50K. 50K times 12 months. Oh, wow. That's what you're saying. Yep. Okay, so now I know how big the value is. It is fair to ask the question, who else or what else have you looked at so far? That gives you a chance to figure out where they are in the research process. If they look at a competitor, okay, what did you love about what they did? What was missing? This shows confidence. If you're fearful of your competitor, they're going to notice. So just ask, why did you even talk to them? How did that feel? Great example. Someone I was working with 3 months ago that I met was having a bad experience with an organization that he hired. And I said, okay, how's that been going? It's really not giving any results. How much did you spend? Well, it's been over 50K just to hire them. There was a big onboarding fee and they've promised the results. And they said, we will work for you and work with you until we get results. Part of that was also spending a bunch of ads. Just keep throwing ads at it. Keep throwing dollars at it. And I asked, well, how much have you spent? Oh, we've spent 20,000 so far. What came out of it? Absolutely zero. Okay. So how much longer are you going to do that for? How long is okay? What permission are you giving yourself? Oh, well, I could continue. Well, how would it feel to stop it? Actually, it might feel pretty great to stop wasting my money. Okay. How good are you even being a client and being coachable? Like, what's it like to work with you? This is essential because you might be saving yourself a disaster of going with someone that's maybe not a great client, meaning they're not a great person. It just means they're not coachable. They can't follow the program. Maybe there's a communication or a personality challenge, or maybe they have the wrong expectations, and the wrong expectations can just really burn things. Okay. So I'm being mindful of looking in the chat. And what I want to do is just make sure I'm not missing any messages. So as I click over here, I'm going to go on the chat button. And do you see anything in there right now that that I'm missing as a question? So I do see the public chat. I am not seeing them. Can you call out one of the questions that you see? Yes. Thank you for asking that. A great way to, okay. So the question is there any way that I can tell if I'm offending the buyer or doing something that pushes them away from me and upsets? Yes. Instead of looking at the slides in the demo, keep your eyes locked on them and then look for cues that they're looking down, they're disappointed, they're crossing their arms, they're looking elsewhere. If these things start to happen, you could just say, hey, wait a minute. How is this even resonating with you? Or did I say something that maybe pushed you away or that's frustrated you? And they can go, no, no, no. I'm not mad at you. I'm not frustrated. You got me thinking about something. All right. What are you thinking and feeling? Well, I kind of feel like you just got super pitchy. And when you just showed your pricing, I didn't even ask about it. Now, they might not say that to you, but you can see it in the body language that there's a disconnect. So that's one of the ways that you can see what's going on. Imagine a sales call is like a hike up Everest or just a hike in the White Mountains in Boston, in New Hampshire. You want to be sure that you can see that they're still with you and they're coming along on the adventure. Giving people snack breaks during a hike is just like a sales call. Hey, how is this even resonating with you? And as a pro tip, never ask, does this make sense? Why? Well, how does it feel when someone says something to you and you're like, hey, does that make sense? Does this make sense? Makes you feel like an idiot in a way because they're like speaking down to you. It's not okay to speak down to your prospect, even though you own and control the call from a thought leadership perspective on the top of the pyramid. You ask, does that make sense? Makes them feel bad. So, brilliant question. What else do you see in there that's come in? Okay, great. So that covers the questions. Sometimes these questions come from just seeing other people kind of show you the way. So this is another kind of third tip of demystifying sales and the three things that are in the way of closing deals. It's the bad examples that we've seen. So here's a reference to a movie, and I'm going to pick ones over different points in time that you may or may not recall. So here's one. You might have heard of the phrase always be closing, ABC. And I hear people go, you should always be closing. Well, where does that come from? Oh, there's one movie called Glengarry, Glen Ross. And so in Glengarry, Glen Ross, there's a scene where there's sales reps in a room and someone's announcing a new sales plan and a new commission. And the guy basically says, hey, you should all be closing always. And whoever sells the most, you're going to get a set of steak knives. So, and they said, whoever sells the most gets this, and whoever sells the least amount gets nothing. In fact, you might even lose your job. So, this created this pressure feeling that people should always be closing. And another phrase in that movie was coffee is for closers. And there was a guy that was not a closer walking up to the coffee machine, and the boss said, you can't have that coffee. You're not a closer. And that's created a myth about sales that you're always supposed to be pushing, always talking a lot and owning and owning and owning. Unfortunately, subconsciously, that takes the buyer and it pushes them further and further away because they feel like you really need the deal more than they should have it. And when someone feels like they need it more, what happens? It's kind of like this tug of war. How does it feel to you when you walk into an auto dealership and as soon as you sit down, they feel like they're pressuring you, they're tugging you. You're like, you know what? We need to get up, we need to go home, the kids need to be fed. If they start finding ways to keep you at the desk and pushing really hard, that's called the tug of war. And that's most often a buyer will just go, if you can't physically get out of the car dealership, they'll just go, hey, can you send me your pricing? Can you tell me about your packages or send me these slides? That's code for you did it wrong. Here's another movie, and it's a book, The Wolf of Wall Street. In that movie, if you haven't seen it, there's a high pressure moment when someone is going through this scenario that says, hey, real quick, sell me this pen. This is a pencil. So boom, sell me this pencil. Go. All of a sudden, it was just high pressure, high pressure, high pressure, asking all these questions and just going wild. Going wild on your prospect makes them feel like they shouldn't trust you. The more you talk, the more they feel like they should just step away. And one of the challenges today is no one's showing you real examples of closed deals that you could go back to the moment in the sales call where trust coins built up so much in the call that the buyer starts asking you questions going, how much does this cost? What results have others had? Can you help me? That's a big one when they start asking you whether you can help them. And then you can go, I don't know. When do you want your results? Oh, we really need the results fast. We need them like this week or in a month. Oh, okay. To get real results here, you got to be committed for at least 6 months to a year because this other person or organization, Andy, he signed up a year ago. He started here and this was his progress. You see how I did that? I basically gave a case study and also set expectations for timeframes. Somebody needs something really quick, like in 2 weeks or a month, and it's a program that takes a long time. That's a great moment to say, this doesn't sound like a fit for you. Sounds like your expectations are just different. Saying no is excellent because it means you're not going to waste your time or their time. Everyone's time matters. So what I was saying about examples, I've studied sales calls for the last 30 years for entire sales teams of ones that are 10 people, 50, 100, up to 500, and done ride-alongs on their sales calls, which means I actually got in a car with the sales rep and they drove to multiple different places and locations that I could see the behaviors that the sales reps had with the buyers and study how do they respond to certain questions? When do they get comfortable, uncomfortable? When are they laughing? Where is trust built and lost? And in the sales calls that get sent to me today, people will send a link that says, hey, here is my Zoom, Fathom, Teams call recording, whatever it is. They'll go, what happened? I really thought that this was someone that would buy from me. Why? Well, they said they were interested. They said they would be open to booking another call. Were they really interested? When I get these links and I study them, I can find the moments when I can see, here's why they joined. Here's a place where trust was lost. One example that someone gave me recently, I forget their name, so forgive me. They basically said, when you get into a sales call, it's like getting into a car and the half of the tank is still full. So the person that gets next to you in the car, your co-pilot, the passenger is like, all right, we got half a tank, maybe we'll get to our destination. If you hit the gas so hard with all your slides in your demo, all of a sudden the tank starts to go down really fast. In fact, your buyer might be looking, hey, can I open this door and jump out? Or how do I politely end this and get off at the next exit? So that's where these examples are important. So I'll take a sales call and find the moments where trust was lost and then where trust was earned. Because there's moments where you're doing great and there's moments where you're a little bit off. It's kind of like a conversation. So there's another question that's come in. How do I know, and thank you for this, how do I know if I'm just talking to the wrong people on the call, is what I'm thinking you're saying. This can be a tricky one. And it's actually really awesome too. And here's how. When you know that someone's joined, you should have done your pre-homework to figure out who are they? What role do they have in the organization? And why are they on the call? Now, if things feel like they're going great, they're asking you great questions and the responses are happening. It's okay to say, so what's next? Who else on your team might even be interested in this or really even against the idea? Now, it's okay to raise an objection like that because they could go, well, I just came today to check this out. I'd have to talk to my boss and see if they're even interested. So don't even book a second call. I want to talk to them first. Okay, so now you just figured out there's another level. You also want to know, well, there are other levels beyond that. So let's just say it's a director of digital marketing. All right, they've got a CMO, maybe other people around them, and then there's the CEO. And you want to just figure out who can make the call here. Is it just within the marketing team? Marketing has the budget for it. Or does the marketing team have to go to sales to get sales to kick in, or the CEO? So you can see there's so many levels and complexities here. And if you just push for the deal on the first call or think that them saying I'm interested means something, if you don't know who else should be on the second call, you can miss it out. So that first person could be the gatekeeper, could be the champion, could be someone just doing research and they don't even know they've got a problem. So you also want this person to be in the right mindset of feeling like their need is so big that they actually go, wow, I didn't know it was that much of a problem. I didn't know my problem was over here, that my website isn't creating booked calls because my newsletter is getting into the spam folder. So every time I reach out to people, they think I'm spammy. Or they never got my message in the first place to go to any of my webinars, that I was going to this conference. So you can see how something small like bad settings on your outgoing messages could destroy the rest of what's going on. So there's a lot going on here with calls. And I've only learned this by studying ones that have gone wrong on the teams that I've been with, or people that send me their lost calls. And guess what? I'll look back at my calls and I'll go, wow. And I might just know where trust was lost, where I said something wrong, or somebody started to back away. And I'm really sensitive to those moments. It sucks when I lose a deal because I feel like, oh, I really could have helped that person. They would have been a great client. And how many times has that happened to you? Wow, that's a bummer that they ghosted me. What did I do wrong? Sometimes you need a third eye that will look at what's going on. It's almost like when Gordon Ramsay goes into a restaurant that's failing and he gets invited in. They already know it's a show. It's a bad show. And if it doesn't get fixed, the restaurant goes down. When your sales calls don't get fixed, your close rate goes down, or it just stays stuck and it doesn't grow fast enough. Today, in any business, with the pressures of AI and just competition, unless you're doing this really well, it doesn't matter how great your product is. If your sales process is not creating trust, you're pushing people away. You cannot make it up in volume in this game. Back in the dot-com boom, they were like, hey, just make it up in volume. Just keep selling more. It doesn't matter if we're losing money. Not everyone is like Amazon and could invest in the right systems to last long enough to get through that development curve to create such a big system that it would suck people in. What might actually suck is the buyer is not having a positive experience, and they might go, that was a fire breath salesperson. And being a fiery breath salesperson, I don't know, how does it feel to you when somebody just kind of barfs up their slides on you and barfs up the demo? I've heard some people explain this as you're excited to buy a Ferrari. You go to the dealership. Somehow you give them the license and the sales rep comes along in the car. Well, let me tell you about the car. Well, imagine if while you're driving around and you're feeling the roar of the engine and you're like, this is great. I hope I qualify for this car. By the way, to get a Ferrari, you've got to qualify. You have to have a minimum monthly revenue, sales number to even get into the Ferrari club. So imagine this, your buyer gets in the car, they're all excited, and then boom, the sales rep's like, oh, and I want to show you this too. Or the sales engineer, even better. Either the rep or the engineer might show something in the sandbox that's off the grid that doesn't work. And then the sales rep or engineer says, oh, sorry, that doesn't work. Somebody's been in my demo system. Trust me, it works. Really? Immediately, subconsciously, there's a ton of flashing lights. Danger, danger, Will Robinson. That is when the buyer starts to go, maybe it doesn't work. Maybe that's not a real feature. Well, maybe it's on the roadmap, but maybe it'll never actually work for me. That's when the demo dies. And that's when the transmission in the Ferrari blows. And you as the buyer and the sales rep have to call an Uber just to get back so that you can get your keys and go home. So when a bad demo or sales call happens, it's like a Ferrari turning into a Pinto. No offense to the makers of the Pinto, but it's a great example that a lot of people go, yeah, a car that could catch on fire is probably not a car that you would put your friends, your daughter, your loved ones in. And when you're part of an organization that has to buy products, if you mess that up, everyone around you looks at you. It's like, why did you buy from that vendor? Why did you trust them? They're horrible. And that could mean the difference between a promotion, a demotion, not getting that extra commission. And it's really just embarrassing when you bring somebody into your house that kind of has bad manners. Think about Thanksgiving. Do you invite people to your house that are kind of eat all the food at the table and you don't even have seconds for the next day? I mean, come on, everybody likes Thanksgiving leftovers. But what happens when a sales rep gets on the call and it's just like Thanksgiving? They sit down, they start grabbing everything, and they're not even passing it around, and they eat before you. That's how it feels to the buyer. If you're not saying, welcome, sit down, enjoy what's here, that could mean that you'll never get invited to the table again, which is the sales conversation, whether it's a Zoom or live. So buyers eat first, not sellers. If they get served by you, they start to trust you. You ask great questions and you provide them answers and value. You're going up in these trust ladders. You've probably heard Russell Brunson talk about the ladders of different offers. Early offer, somebody getting a free ebook. Next offer, there's a free course. After that, there's a chance to be part of his community group. Every time you're at a different level, there's different levels of product value. But before somebody's going to go into any ladder, they've got to feel the trust. If they don't feel the trust, even if the value is there, they might go, I don't know, someone's going to get me on a sales call later. My inbox is going to be blown up. The value's not high enough related to the trust or distrust equation. So at this point, I want to do a reality check with everyone that's here today. Where is your real issue? What are the habits that you're doing now that at the end of a call, you're like, I did it again. I feel like I talk too much. I feel like they told me that they were interested in talking to me, but I somehow messed something up. Maybe I followed my old habits. So what's a new habit that you want to have? Maybe it's a shorter sales call. Maybe it's a higher show rate on the second with fewer ghosting. Maybe it's something else where when you send out content, you actually know that they consumed it and they respond back to you. There's just so much happening in a sales conversation that Close with One, this organization that I put together, the purpose is about building so much trust and rapport in the first call that they will want to join a second one with you. And they'll ask, hey, when can we meet again? This has been great. Close with One is not about closing the first call. It's about creating trust and rapport so that the next ones happen. Some people out there might be in government sales. Government sales means you might not close the deal in 12 months. It might be 18 months or 24 months because they have budget cycles that are really long, and appropriating funds and sorting through vendors is a hassle for them. And the way that you show up with your habits, the way that you show up with your questions, and the way that you show up with creating trust is something that's important, whether it's a super long sales cycle or they want to buy that day. Sometimes people will just say, hey, I want to buy today. I'm going to buy today. And they'll just, you feel like the credit card, they want to push it towards someone. You want to be sure that they feel like it's so insanely valuable that they need to give it to you immediately so that they can get the value that they so desperately want. But if you recall, I was talking about anxiety and desperation and fear and low confidence. The low confidence creates this lack of trust. And it's this feeling like, to go back to the meal example, if you don't like the food at a restaurant, are you going to recommend it? Or maybe not. Will you ever go there again if you had a bad experience with the server? Probably not. What is it that a great server at a restaurant actually does that makes you want to come back? Do they take the menu and shove it in your face and go, hey, tonight's specials are, and they go on for minutes and minutes and minutes. And you're like, I just want to pick off the menu. I just came here for dessert. I really just want to drink. Or I just want to hang out with my friends, have a few appetizers. How similar is that to a sales rep getting on a call and just going, let me show you my slides? That's like someone going through all the menu items at the Cheesecake Factory. Everything is on that menu, but do you want to go through every item? Maybe not. I once wanted to have cheesecake at the Cheesecake Factory after having my dinner. I got to the restaurant with all my friends in Boston, and they're like, this is going to be a long wait. Well, how long? Well, we don't know. Just put your name on the list. We looked around at everyone there. We're like, this is going to be a long wait. We left the restaurant, went into Boston, ate somewhere else. And then as we were driving back hours later, someone's like, hey, we never got the cheesecake. Hey, let's go back to the Cheesecake Factory. We went back in. They asked, hey, there's a wait list. Yeah, we put our names on there. And they're like, oh, you know what? You're actually next. We've been wondering and hoping that you were still here. Perfect. Let's have our cheesecake. Imagine that you are the buyer and somebody doesn't let you ask a question until the end of the call, 1 hour in or 3 hours in, like that experience of going from dinner to dessert. How did you feel? How hungry were you? How angry were you that you had to wait? What if your buyers are hungry? They're angry, they're upset, and they're done with the experience with you. When you do this right, you actually create a wait list and an onboarding list where the buyers go, hey, we want to work with you. Okay. We can't onboard anyone new until 3 weeks from now. How does that sound? Wow. Sounds like you guys are busy and successful. We'll take the steps. Can you send us the contract? When do you need payment? All of a sudden, they're asking you for the contract and asking to make a payment. And of course, never create scarcity in the way that it's not truthful. If you can't be direct and truthful, they're going to read it in your body language and go, wow, salesy, pushy, and they're making stuff up. If you truly have a 3-week wait list, great. I know people that have 6-month and 12-month wait lists where they'll just go, hey, we can't handle anyone new. You only work with so many clients at a time. That's a personal value that they have. And they're not going to mistreat everyone else that's been onboarded, because how often have you signed up with someone, felt like you got a good or decent onboarding, and then a few weeks later, a few months later, their interest in you drops off, and then the team that you thought you were going to work with starts to become a different team. Instead of A players, it becomes C players. And that's who I'm speaking to today, is people that are in sales, that maybe you're a B closer and you want to get to an A, or maybe you're brand new and you're sort of on the ramp up period, and your close rate isn't there. So maybe you're a D or a C, but you want to get to that B and the B plus because you love the company, and you want your mom and dad to be proud of you. You want to be able to take your grandmother out for dinner. And when you get your commission check, you're like, hey, everybody, I'm treating tonight. How many times have your parents treated you to dinner, and it's time for you to say, hey, Dad, I got the check? How does it feel when you can say to your family, I got the check? That's the same thing the buyer wants. Hey, great vendor, I got them because I know I trust them. That's the I got the check piece. So I've been talking a lot. I'm just going to take a little bit of a break and sit back for a moment and go, how's this flow going? How is it feeling to you to hear this and also get a variety of questions as well? I've actually been asking you questions. What is the value of improving your close rate? Some people don't want it so high because they already have a bank of customers and they have a wait list, but they just want to close a little bit more, and they want to create almost a stockpile or a harvest so that you have a wait list, because the economy does this stuff all the time. And when is the best time of the day and the year to close deals? It's all the time. Closing a deal basically means you've created so much trust that you move to the next step in the trust ladder. I was working with a guy recently named David, and David showed me some sales calls. And this was actually one that we brought into him from our lead gen platform. So he basically said, I need some bigger clients. Oh, like these? Yes, here's one. He took the first call. Stephen went through talking to someone he thought was the buyer. At the end of the call, the guy's like, let me think about it. And Stephen was so disappointed. He's like, no, I think I messed this one up. He gave me the recording. I studied it. I said, wow, he actually wants this to work. He wants to trust you, but you didn't build enough trust. Message this back to him right now. He messaged back to the buyer, and then he said, oh my gosh, he wants to do a second call, and he's bringing his wife on. Oh, okay, great. That's what I saw in the body language, is he wasn't the buyer. In fact, he doesn't even really care about this project, but his wife asked him to join the call to try to vet Stephen. So say this, get the next call. He got the next call. So then I asked him, how are you going to prepare for the call and build rapport? He's like, I don't know. I'm just going to show and say what I did before. No. What do you see in her LinkedIn profile? What does she talk about? What's her personality? What's going to get her excited and build a relationship? He didn't know, so I studied the profile and said, here's the questions. Avoid this, don't say that. He navigated that call a little better, but at the end of it, they said, oh, I don't know. There's someone else on the team. They're really going to need to see it. So then it went from first person to second person to third person. So there was a prep needed for the third one. So we went through the prep. And then we went back to those same husband-wife team. And then they said, oh, I don't know. Can you send some information, maybe a proposal? But we're going on a 2-week vacation. Can we talk to you 2 weeks later? And he said, yeah, I'll send the information. After I studied that call, I said, time out. Send them this message right now to get them back on a call. They got back on a call 2 days later, said, this is a 5-minute call. Say this, ask this one question. He asked the one question, and they said, boom, we'll sign the contract today. We'll send you the money. You're just going to do the onboarding while we're on vacation, so that when they came back, the project already started. Wow. You don't know what you have as a capability until you ask the question. So selling is not selling, it's serving. And when you're serving in the right moment, in the right way, the flow comes to you after you've really served the other person. I never read about these things in a sales book. I learned a lot of these things by reading other books like The Art of War. That teaches you something about creating trust. Anytime in the battle of war, you can see what the enemy's doing. They're preparing, they're sending messages about how they are positioned, how many there are, and the way they're going to fight. That's what happens on a sales call, is your buyer is testing you, seeing how confident you are, seeing how good of an organization you might be, how trustworthy you are. They want to join an army of good that's going to help them be successful. So why not show them what you can do and be honest and authentic? Otherwise, they will just give you that, we're going to think about it BS. Oh, my people will talk to yours. That means they don't want to enter into the battle and trenches with you and see you as the general that's going to lead them to where they want to go. They joined the call for a certain reason, but you gave them a reason for the no or the maybe. They joined it for a reason. So the art of trust, to go back to the art of war, is what we're looking to do. And some people have said, well, why don't I just have AI do it for me? Or have AI just study the calls, study the notes, create the action plan, and teach me how to follow the ABC method and the BAM FAM message and the BANT message, or the budget awareness timing need. That doesn't work anymore. It worked before. It's kind of a recipe. But what happens when you ask an amazing cook, if you watch Top Chef and any of the chef competitions, as they're making their incredible meal, do you see any of them looking at the menu and the recipes going, oh yeah, I got to mix this and mix that? No, they're pros. They know what to put in when. They know when to slow down. Now they might look a little freaked out as they're competing against each other. Yes, it's a live competition where the best sommelier, best cook, best expert delivers the meal. Imagine if all sales calls happen at the same time and the buyer's just watching 5 reps do their pitch. You're probably up against 99 other people. What are you going to do to be that number one that they follow and the other 99 are cast away? They're ignored. They're thought of as the wolves, the less trustworthy ones. And you're the sheep. And I don't mean a meek sheep, but someone that they go, wow, I can trust my money and time with that person, because it looks like they actually care. And it looks like they follow direction. So this might sound a little strange, but your clients want you to follow their direction. They actually want to be a shepherd. And they want to say, hey, this is our problem. This is what we've tried. These are the areas that we're worried and concerned. Can you follow and actually serve us well? So it's a really fascinating dynamic to know what role or persona you have. Here's another example. This was asked earlier. How do I know if I'm building trust or I'm pushing too hard? Imagine you're on the plains of Africa. The grass is really tall and there's a roar and you know it's a lion. When you're running and you bump into a bunch of people and you're like, oh my God, There's 20 people here. Which way do I go for safety? Where's the lion? That's like 20 sales reps. Which one are you going to trust in the moment? And within 3, 5, 9, 11 seconds go, I trust this one. I'm going to follow them. That's what happens at the beginning of a sales call. They immediately go, all right, this is an emergency. Do I trust this person? Did they capture my attention? Or am I just going to fade away? I've seen this in the beginning of sales calls. Good example is Zenny sent me a call with someone. He's like, oh, I totally love this guy. I want to get a second call. He's ghosted me. Okay, send me it. I looked at it. Zenny talked for the first 2 minutes about his mom and his dad in the retirement community and all the things that were going on about the need for a new swimming pool. Did the buyer join the call to hear about the swimming pool? No. I saw him scratching his ear, scratching his neck, starting to read his email. 3 minutes into the call, he started vaping. About 9 minutes in, he started to drink a beer. This buyer was bored, started to entertain himself because he was anxious and worried, and just started to unplug. I could see his eyes looking elsewhere, and he sent all the signals to Zenny that he wasn't interested. He was losing the deal. Some people ask me, at what point do you lose the deal in a call? The beginning, the middle, or the end? It's not like that. It's a spectrum. You could be doing really great, and all of a sudden, like, just lose trust. You could be doing really poorly, and then at the end, you say something or ask a question like, I wasn't that interested because I don't need that other thing you talked about. But at the end, you kind of got me more curious. Can we talk again? Yeah, we can. I didn't even know that was interesting to you. Well, it's because you just went on and on with all the slides in the demo and you didn't give them a chance to talk or take a temperature and go, what is it that you really want to see and hear today? If there's just one thing that you could see from me, what is that? That's like just asking what's needed. So I ask all of you, what is it that you feel like you need to be more successful in building trust and rapport and closing more deals? If you didn't get your question answered here today, you can find me at closewith1.com. You can text me at 720-917-8176. You're not going to have a bot respond to you. It's going to be me. You can have a real conversation if you want to. Thank you for tuning in today, asking your questions. I hope you guys have a blessed rest of your day. Ciao for now. Oh my God, I feel like I was just doing loops. Yeah. How did it seem to you? I didn't see them. Where do I see them? Oh, you know what? I was in the wrong side of it. I wasn't on the YouTube side. I was in Riverside. So where do I see the sessions? It still says live on here. I'm going to click end stream. Amazing. Okay. I think it's still active.